Hi everyone and welcome to this new class. In this class, we'll cover how to import a new tool within a tools group I already have in order to use them as visual reference. Most of all, for all the bodybuilding we'll watch from now on in all our classes. So the first thing we'll do is to load a tool. In this case, it'll be this one right here. We drag it. Let's hide this, press on edit, and now in this group over here we've got this subtools group. The entire body, the skull, the cornea, well, the eyes with the iris, and also a base, which we won't use, so we can delete it. So now what I'll do is to find the star. In order to replace the star with the new tool, if we hover over this one here, and there it is. Now what I'd like to do, we have this group, and I'll bring to this group these other groups right here. But what happens is that the models are on a different size. And what we'll do during the whole process is to compare what we'll make with these muscles right here. But it would become a bit tedious if we have to look for the right muscle too many times, when actually we can do it with more ease. I'll show you how in a minute. First, what we'll do is to merge all of these muscles you see here. It's done as follows. We'll apply merge, but specifically we'll apply merge visible, which will merge all layers with the open eye icon. In this case, I need all of them. So let's merge, and notice it'll appear right here. Whoops, not that one. So here it is. Is this one over here. We'll import this subtool. Here, how we do it, click on append, we find it here, merged, and there we have it. But what we'll realize is that in fact, it's too small. Here it is. So we'll check in geometry, in size, let's make sure the right layer is active. Okay, it should do, and I'll scale it. Oh, but I need the other layer visible too. Let's scale it a bit more. We need them to be on a similar size for us to be easy to manage them. I'll leave it on the side and here a little behind our character, so it doesn't get in the middle of our way when sculpting on our character. And at the same time, for us to compare easily what we sculpt with the reference. By the way, it doesn't affect at all the fact that our reference is a woman, since the human anatomy is the same for women and men, except of course proportions are different, and also in this case obviously a woman has got mammary glands, and here she's got more adiposity around the gluteus and here on the legs. But well, I'll show you later how we'll hide that. We have said the most important stuff. Let's scale it a bit more. Around there should do. But what happens, I'll press here Poly F. I need to select all this. For instance, by holding Ctrl Shift, I'll click here, any brush. These muscles here are all of them included in a subtool. I'll click again. These are separated. But what I actually need is every single muscle to be separated by subtools, totally independent. In order to do so, we check here in polygroups. And we'll click here on auto groups. It'll automatically generate the groups I need. We have to wait a little and done. So now I do have the reference as I want it to be. Let's see, for instance, what we have achieved with all that. I'll hold Ctrl Shift and click here to select the biceps. It's actually called the biceps brachii. So there we have the muscle isolated. In this case, I don't need the mammary glands, so I'll hide them. Okay, well, we know already how to use this. You click here, Ctrl Shift click, drag on an empty area, Ctrl Shift, click over here, and it gets hidden. Same for this portion here. So, for us to be able to visualize it, we know now by holding Ctrl Shift and clicking on it, hold Shift, click and drag on an empty area. Hold Ctrl Shift and click here. So there we have it. Hold Ctrl Shift and click here. Click here for instance, and we can hide what we need to be hidden by holding Ctrl Shift. Okay, in addition to that, we'll use this really often along with Ctrl Shift. I'll click on this for instance. Let's hold Ctrl Shift and drag on an empty area. And I'll do the same again. Click on this and it gathers with the one that is also hidden. If I need to make the hidden ones visible, I invert this, getting them back. If I invert again and take this portion to this part and this part, I'll invert by holding Ctrl Shift and drag here. So in this way we can control it. If I click, those parts will gather with the other ones that are hidden. And if I click just once, over here, it'll bring all muscles group back. That's fundamental for what we'll do during the whole sculpting process of the muscles, which we'll make on this base mesh. Something else, for us to be able to understand the use of these layers more properly, I'll click for instance in this one I have active, and what it does is to hide all layers, but leaving visible the one that is selected, in this case this one, regardless if the eye is enabled or disabled. If I active another one, it gets hidden, making visible what that layer contains, what is in that subtool. Therefore, we notice we can move around them as we wish. If I need to bring all of them back on the active layer, we click and we get them back. If I click on the same one, it hides all of them. If I click on another one, it'll bring independently those on which I'm clicking on the eye icon. Alright, I think this is it about this tutorial. On the next tutorial, we'll learn how to use masks. So see you in the next tutorial. Hello everyone, welcome to this new class. On this class, we'll be covering the head with the ideal proportions, but we'll make it by using some primitive meshes from scratch. We can start then with a sphere. We click and drag, it did, and let's not forget to apply Make Polymesh 3D. Otherwise, we would have to face some problems. We already know what it does. It's to convert this into an editable mesh. With Append, I'll bring a cylinder. I'll rotate this cylinder and set its pivot on the back of the cylinder, and I'll rotate it completely around this axis. And with Shift to change the axis completely straight. Now with Move, we'll take it forward. Geometry, and over here in Size, we'll scale it proportionally. It could be around here. Once again, with the gizmo, I'll take it around here so it looks aligned with this portion of the sphere. Alright. I'll select Move and activate the symmetry by pressing X, and I'll push this portion a bit, trying to mimic the basic shape of the jaw. This part of the jaw should reach the middle of the sphere. Let's lift it a bit more. And we'll sketch a bit more the chin. Alright, I'll add another cylinder in order to sketch the neck. We scale it around here, we rotate it, around this angle. And well, so far we've got a base to start the head. Now, let's go to the top here on the sphere, and in Merge, hit Merge Down. Okay, so it merges these pieces. Merge down. Okay. We've already got all the pieces merged. Or well, they are at least inside one single tool, as we can see here. Let's go to Geometry, the option Dynamesh, and let's select a resolution of, let's leave it on 48 for the time being, while we see how it works. Yep, it should do. We've got an easy to use mesh. Let's smooth this portion of the mesh so the pieces blend better. Okay. Now what we'll do is to add a cube and I'll use this cube as a guide. Or I'll use it in order to generate the guides. What guides do I need to generate? I'll show you in a minute. With a visual reference I've got ready, in fact, it's a visual reference made based on a real person, so we can notice the proportions of every person are basically the same. These standards are from the base of the chin up to the base of the nose, from the base of the nose up to the top of the eyebrows, and from the top of the eyebrows up to the edge of the forehead. Gives us the first base for the proportions on a vertical way. On a horizontal way, we get the proportions according to the eye's width, which will define these distances we can see here. Like for instance then, the distance between the eyes this part of the nose, the distance is 1 eye. From the edge of the eye to the border of the ear, there is 1 eye too. And the edge of the face is basically halfway. I'll start from the chin. Let's leave this here approximately. I'll select the head. Let's fix this a bit. Okay. So we'll start making this line for the nose. I'll select the cube again, and by holding Control, I take it from the middle and drag it, leaving a small gap in between. Notice it clones the mesh inside the same subtool. It didn't create another subtool. And again, by holding Control, I'll take this around here, leaving a gap so we can see the guide for the height of the parts. So let's grab the head, and we should notice we have to start defining certain features. We already know this for the nose here, for the eyebrows, but first I'll define something. Let's see here this area. With time standard, let's do it this way. But before that, I will explain something to you. This third, related to this distance from the nose to the top of the eyebrows, it's also divided by 3. And the first upper third defines the height of the eyes. Or the height of the inferior eyelid is right over this line. And it makes it easier to draw this kind of angle. So, let's measure a third approximately of this portion. 1, 2, 3. At around this distance, then is alright. We already know then we should leave the eyebrows at this height. I'll make it with time standard. I'll hide this for a while so I can draw it properly. Alright. And the same here for the nose. So, I'll sketch it like this. I'm using standard so it creates some volume. Okay, I'll press Ctrl D to add a subdivision. Let's leave it like that for the time being. Alright, break, and I'll see you on the next session. Alright, let's continue with the tutorial of the head then. This area here should be more with this angle. and it could go a bit deeper for this area. This is basically the real shape the eye sockets should have. This is an illustration of what I'm trying to show you. On this portion of the skull, it's got this angle here, like this, and it's got sharper on this area. Let's notice on this edge. And I'll smooth a bit. I think like that should do, for the shape I want to get for the time being. I'll also show you there are two features we should keep in mind. This one here, this kind of triangular shape. I'll show you how it would be. I'll decrease the volume a bit around here. And over here, to define it a bit more. We smooth it. We can see on this skull, it's got kind of a slope here, generating this curve up here. Therefore, we should sculpt it that way. So, I think we should push this portion. Later on, we'll fill that portion up with more material anyways. It is just for us to keep it in mind. I'll just push this portion a bit. And also, I'll close this angle here. Let's add some slope here. And let's generate this curve, getting down again here. This way. Okay, what I have to do here is to unite all this. For instance, I'll apply some material. I want this portion, this line to be kind of subtle. Over here, I can fill it up a bit more. I'll apply some more material to this portion, known as eye bag, around here. And up here, with the superior eyelid, we can fill this portion up with more ease. The orbicularis oculi should be upper. Let's select the brush, weave 1. So I'll show you. They get this portion up here, more or less, and reach this portion down here. And right over here, they join. And all this is the orbicularis oculi. They join like this on this portion. This is what basically fills up the portion between the skin and the bone area. Let's smooth it gently. So we are noticing we are getting more defined skin. There is a feature we can see on the skull by the forehead. This one here. Then let's make it this way. And we leave a gap without touching this fiber. I better define it a bit more. This one here. Then we sketch this forehead region. I'll just pull this portion of the skull a bit. And we could improve its general shape. This part of the nose is almost aligned with this portion of the skull. Now, let's make the neck wider around here. You're missing the sternocleidomastoides here to keep unity to what respects the neck and the head. So let's make it. Over here on the portion of the chin, I'll make a triangle this way and smooth it. I'll also smooth this portion here. Okay. Let's take a pause here and I'll see you on the next session. Let's continue then with the hand. On this class, we'll join the parts, but we have to do it carefully. We need to preserve the details we've made, like the details of the fingers and also the subdivisions. For instance, this one has got 5, this one has got 5 also. I'll increase the subdivisions on all fingers. In this case, I think the process will require more resources to our PC. In fact, What if we leave them on 4? I'll decrease the subdivisions to 4. Yeah, we could leave them on 4. So I'll sketch the little finger and hit deal higher. Or you can also find it over here. Likewise, for this one, deal higher. We can leave them on 4, since I notice we are not losing too much detail. In addition to that, by adding another subdivision, it is adding too many polygons to the mesh. So it's better to get a balance, keeping a good amount of polygons, but also keeping a good quality. And this one, let's leave it also on 4, deal higher. Now, this portion, we have to add 1, 2, to leave it on 4. But before, I need to delete this, which I don't really need any longer. The bases I used previously, so they are 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's start deleting them as follows. Delete, always, delete, delete. What's this one? Yeah, delete. Not this one. I think that's it. Okay. We have to make sure all of them are on 4 subdivisions with the same amount. If one of them has a different amount of subdivisions, we'll get a conflict and we want to avoid having any problems. So I'll start now. I'll apply merge down, always. Let's notice ZBrush has generated the first merge. Let's go to the second. Alright, we've already got all merged in a single subtool, preserving our subdivision, as we can check here. So we can decrease some subdivisions to keep preserving our details. What we didn't get is a proper blend between these portions. They are under the same tool, but they are still independent. Therefore, what I have to do is to duplicate the hand. And to one of them, it could be to this one up here, depending on how you want to do it. We'll apply Dynamesh in order to join all the parts. 48. Dynamesh, we hit on no, but on 48, I'll hide this one for a moment to see what happened. I'll add a subdivision to smooth it a bit. I'll select the one above, on the one that I've applied the Dynamesh to. And we'll go under Project, Project Hole. We apply it, and notice that on 2 subdivisions it has added some more detail. I'll increase 1 subdivision more, Ctrl D, Project All. I'll increase another subdivision, Project All. Alright, let's check how it looks now with 4 subdivisions. I've got it on solo, so I'll hover over here in order to see the one below. It has got some more detail, therefore I can add another subdivision and we'll project it again. Here it is. Okay, it's done with that. So we can notice it has preserved good detail with 5 subdivisions, therefore we could leave it like that. So for instance, I'll decrease here 1 subdivision, 2 subdivisions, I'll smooth these portions. They've been merged in a single subtool, and we've got good detail. That technique is very good when we need to keep the details when we work the parts independently, in this case the fingers, and we've achieved to merge them successfully. Alright, we'll get rid of this one, delete, and now with this mesh we'll start finishing the hand. We'll add some details needed in order to finish the hand. We'll start decreasing some subdivisions. I'll fill this up a bit. And over here, I'll add some more detail here. So, once these joints have been polished, I'll start fixing the areas around the knuckles. I'll smooth them around this area here and make the joints even. Remember, from a previous class, we said they are quite prominent. So let's add some more volume here. Alright, now I'll select standard and mark this portion this way. Trying to keep this little membrane. If we see the hand from this perspective, the membrane should be around this height. We smooth it, add a subdivision. Here we got a little cut, we smooth it too. So my intention is to make this part of the membrane visible. This is what I wanted to achieve. Let's invert here the brush. And well, over here, by checking several references, you could notice this membrane is a bit upper by this finger. We obviously have some issues with some little polygons, which generate an irregular shape. But there is something like this. And down here, it is something like this. Alright, let's take a pause, and we'll continue on the next class with the tendons. See you in the next class. Alright, welcome to Finger Details Part 2. At this instant, we'll apply a zero measure, and then we'll continue retouching this part of the fingers. So let's go to Geometry, apply zero measure on 4, Shift F for us to check what we got. Yeah, it helps a lot. Let's smooth this portion at the end of the fissure. They look a bit square. Alright. Let's add a subdivision and improve the detail on each finger. Okay, Control D, I'll select in flat, and I'll do the following. I'll try to make the knuckles wider a bit more. Let's also check over here. Let's see these fingers, for instance. Over here, this knuckle is actually closer. It could be around here. And the last knuckle would be located around here. And I'll generate kind of a curve here on this little finger. This way. And let's move it outwards. Being careful to avoid spoiling the shapes we've already achieved. Now, I'll add some creases on these portions. The creases, which turn out to be those skin pieces in the middle, using standard. I'll make them as follows. Let's see. I have to make this more round first. And let's check the distance here. This crease has got this kind of slope towards this side. Let's notice the tendons up here. I'll just sketch them for the time being. On the next session, I'll explain more in depth, along with the most representative muscles that affect the volumes on the foot. At the moment, I'll just sketch them. They go along this direction, like pointing to this point here. And what I'll do here is to smooth them a bit. I just want to have them as reference. Let's notice they got too notorious here. They are visible around this portion of the fingers. Obviously, they go all the way down up to the tip of the fingers, but we could say they are visible up to this portion. Let's smooth. We'll sketch them gently. I don't want them to be notorious for the time being. Using pinch, we'll try to move them a bit downwards. Well, let's check. Over here on the thumb finger, a bit more round perhaps. I'll mark the nail height. This feature may vary from person to person, but I'll sketch it around here for now. I'd like to leave it as a guide. and the finger shape. This shape, this portion of the knuckle goes a bit more outwards, and it's kind of sharper inwards. Let's fix this also. Since it is too much inside, let's use a standard to add volume to this portion. Let's check this foot down here, how this volume should be. I'll add a subdivision, and what I'll do is to add some detail to these portions up here of the knuckles. Since we have more detail, let's decrease the intensity a bit. Let's leave it on 27. I'll do it this way. I'll use pinch to close this a bit more. Let's keep in mind, around this portion, it shouldn't be so sunken, as I've made it here. So, let's use move to lift this up a bit more, so they look more straight. Alright, let's add some more detail here. Pull this portion a bit on this area. I need an image reference to check that portion. We could use this image. How this area should look. I'll make it using standard. Let's define better this portion of the proximal. I'll decrease some subdivisions in order to smooth it. I think this bulge over here doesn't look natural. It should be located lower. Okay, that looks much better. And we still have to work on this volume. We've got a knuckle over here, which is quite big. We have to check from every angle to make sure we are not spoiling the shape. Let's check this tendon. And over here, what we do is to remove some material so it looks more defined. I'm noticing this is too flat. In fact, we should lift this up a bit. And move it a bit more so it doesn't look so sunken. Although over here it is a bit lower. Okay, well, on the next session we'll work on this area. How the muscles and tendons affect the shape on this region of the foot. See you on the next session. Welcome to the last session for the leg. As a matter of fact, this portion of the calf is not round. It is rather kind of straight. Well, not that straight, but you get the point. Something like that. I'll go ahead and smooth. I'll shape the muscles more properly. For instance, this portion here, these are normally linked together, but the division between these two muscles is not visible. Therefore, we'll go ahead and smooth them. We'll leave some of them to be prominent on certain areas, but not necessarily so marked. The idea is to get a sensation of musculature, but with skin, and that it looks more natural. So, I'll select Inflate and provide some little touches in order to enlarge this group of muscles a bit more. I'll smooth them to match them up. Likewise, this one over here, I'll add some of volume. This portion here for the group of adductors. Also, perhaps covered with skin, the division between them won't be visible. So, let's smooth them. Something like that could be. We'll smooth this portion at the back. From a side perspective, this muscle probably looks more prominent than this one over here. Likewise, this muscle is more prominent. So, by giving subtle touches with this brush, Inflate, let's remember what this brush does is to pump up the muscles in this case. We could be like this. We smooth here a little. Well, this portion of the gladius, we might improve it a little using as polish. At the moment, we'll probably be using almost the whole time clay for polishing and improving the shape of the muscles. We're already polishing this portion of the leg. We'll be selecting some which could be more prominent. Some others won't be really visible because of the skin. Let's see. Over here, it's got some of volume like this. Let's remember this muscle over here, the vastus, reaches this portion and it always tends to provide that lateral volume to the leg. So that's the reason why I'm enlarging it on this upper part. But it gets to this area, and well, from there we've got the gluteus, which is located more centered, so it could be smaller. The gluteus in this case of men are not so wide. We'll make this portion of the malleolus more prominent. The medial malleolus, it should be shaped this way. Some more volume in this area. Alright. I've lost the shape of this muscle a bit. This muscle over here should be like this. This inner soleus. This biceps femoris should have some more volume than the semitendinosus that gets down this way. Alright, something like this. Let's mark this portion a bit more. I think that would be it regarding the leg. I'll select a brush. This is polish by pressing H, and I get this edge polish to define this slope of the gastrocnemius. Alright, I think we've done a good job here on the leg. We've gone all over the musculature of the whole leg. And at this point, we are finishing then the first package covering the torso, arms and leg. I'll see you then on the next tutorial. Hello everyone, welcome to this new class. On this class I'll teach you how to make a mouth by using a very easy technique. What we do first, what happens here, we could use a cube should do. I selected it and well, we get the cube. Shift F for us to see the mesh. I'll select this side. Make polymesh 3D. I'll add some subdivisions, perspective. Okay. What we'll do here is to start sketching, maybe with standard. We'll sketch then the outline of the mouth. Normally, the mouth will need more polygons I select X for enabling symmetry. And by using move, I'll move this a bit backwards. Since the mouth has actually got a semi-rounded shape, so we could use as polish in order to flatten this area a bit. We smooth it a bit also. Alright, I think it'll work like that. We select standard and we'll sketch as follows. I'll create kind of a V shape over here. Next, I draw a curve up to this point and another curve over here. Now, I'll just make this curve down here. I draw this curve up to this portion, similar to the curve above, but the opposite. And I get sketched one of the lips. I'll fill it up using clay. So far I've got just one of the lips, haven't I? There are some details to be kept in mind in this case. I'll select by using this lasso mask this outer outline. Oops, my bad. Let's do it again. Alright, and I'll press Ctrl W. First I'll press Shift F, Ctrl W, and ZBrush has separated them by polygroups, so we can work on them independently. I wanted to draw it this way for us to understand the basic shape of a superior lip. And now we'll make the inferior lip. The inferior lip has got a different shape. I'll generate it using standard again. It has got a shape like this approximately. And we take it to this portion here, sketching kind of a triangle, to this part of the corner of the mouth. We select clay once again. We'll fill this portion up. We'll add material, just these little portions. Just a bit over here. And we smooth it gently, so we don't affect the outline of the mouth. So far, they seem to be some feminine lips, but, well, we have to start creating certain shapes that will make these lips look more real. What I will do, I probably have too much intensity here. Let's leave it on 12 and use this standard brush. With move, we'll take this portion a bit backwards and these have a part. We'll pull it to the front, but I'll remove all these subdivisions. Well, let's add 2 for us to see the outline. And likewise, we'll do it on the inferior lip. Only the portion in the middle. In fact, we better push this portion a bit but the portion in the middle up to around this area. We can pull it out a bit. What I'll do here is to try to preserve this edge, this one over here. I'll smooth a bit. I lost the shape, but I'll repeat it. So we define this outline here. This portion you see here is called sulcus nasolabialis, and this V shape, Cupid's bow. Now, what we'll do is I'll select a mask, but a squared mask, since in this case it's going to be very important to separate these two lips properly. Okay. We've already got a basic shape as a base. I'll select this portion here, and by using move, I'll push this a bit inwards. And I'll select standard in order to correct this outline here with clay. And likewise, I'll select the upper part. And the same, I'll push it a bit inwards. Now, for us to understand a little better, using standard, this shape here of Cupid's bow, I'll increase their volume. I'm gonna do it with clay instead. Let's take a pause here and we'll continue on the next session. We carry on with this fifth session. Let's polish this a bit. I'll select clay tubes and set it up soft and smaller. and with lower intensity. We make this and smooth it a bit. Same here. We add a volume like so. Alright. We'll continue then. We are almost finishing when we are getting a good idea of the shapes. I'll add first a bit of volume to this shape. I'll do it with more intensity. This muscle normally has a great volume, outstanding a lot, depending on its position. In fact, looking at it from this perspective, it would look quite prominent. There are some little muscles which we'll define as follows. I'll define first, let's create a line here, kind of dividing the wrist. I think we should probably trace this line closer this way, since these muscles with this angle come this way from here approximately. This one would come a bit more straight, but this supinator gets down this way. Now, the other muscles go across over the supinator. One here and the other one over here. We'll polish them a bit. They turn out to be around 3 muscles. But well, something I didn't mark here was another guide we need right below this other one. For the top of the radius. These two then would go across over the supinator, which comes this way. And finally this one. This muscle here is called abductor pollicis longus, and this is the extensor pollicis longus. But let's move this portion downwards a bit, since the tendon gets linked to the thumb directly. The tendon of the extensor, the tendon of the abductor, would come this way too. Since they are located so close to each other, it's a bit complex to draw them. But I'll make them this way for us to be able to understand their shape easier. And finally, for this muscle over here, let me show you here on the visual reference which ones they are. This one over here, Shift F, abductor pollicis longus. We can see here how is its shape. And this muscle here is the extensor pollicis longus. And the other one is this little one, which is the extensor carpi radialis brevis muscle. Something like so. Let's polish them. Over here we've got another little muscle. Hardly noticeable. I'll separate it a bit from this portion. It's called, let's see an image reference. It's this one over here, called extensor digiti minimi. Let's go back, so we can understand how it is. Now what we'll start doing is to polish the general shape of the muscles, to define it as we want them to be. We'll also clean these guidelines to create better shapes. So we'll start polishing the arm. First, I'll smooth by giving little touches on the joints here, for instance. Let's do that with 4 subdivisions. We carry on polishing this way. Over here, normally these muscles join a bit more. Here, this muscle has got a couple of fibers heading on this direction. We smooth a bit. Here, I'll close this angle a bit more. And I'll make this bone look a bit more prominent. And this one over here, we could take it inwards a bit more. We smooth here first by providing subtle touches. We'll sketch this portion to its approximate shape. On this position, since this portion here of the tendons looks a bit more like this. I'll generate some more material here to add some volume. I smooth. Provide subtle touches here. Okay, let's take the last pause. So I'll see you on the 6th session. Alright, hello everyone. Let's finish with all the details we've started from the previous video for the foot. What we've got left now, it would be to add details, such as irregularities, like around the fingers. Initially, we'll go ahead and create the cuts the fingers have got, different to the cuts the knuckles of the hands have got. The foot hasn't got so many. For instance, on this area we generate one, with this shape, could be. We can make another one, like this. Let's check a visual reference. For instance, we can see a little cut over here. And let's also notice it becomes more notorious when making pressure over the floor. We've got some other cuts here. We can see them over here as well. For instance, this one. So let's generate those kind of details. It could be using clay. I'll remove some material around here in order to make this crease look like the finger is making pressure. Let's see. Dam standard again. Likewise, we'll modify this one. Let's remove some here. Inverting by holding Alt. Okay, pinch. And make tight the union. We could create some other subtle cuts. All this depends on the reference we are following. Using inflat, I'll apply some over here. Alright, I also would like, let's check, this portion here, I've got it too protuberant, it's too big. Another detail, over here, around the malleolus it's got also some cuts, or some kind of wrinkles we could say, this way. I'll erase them a bit and make them again. Also over here. Let's check on the visual reference what we could be missing. We should also notice on this portion at the back, also depending on the person, if it's an older person, these details will be more visible. Let's sketch them over here. The idea is to make them with strokes, like so. Right to left and also left to right. On the reference, well, this is too saturated and the directions may vary. I'll add a couple more. Using inflat. Now let's inflate these folds we got when we generated these cuts. Also we could apply some pinch. Okay, I think we could leave it like that. I think we've got the idea of how we can sculpt the foot. Finally, we could add some veins. I can show you here how to use the layers. Over here in layers, I'll press this button. Okay, ZBrush is telling me I should be on the last subdivision level. So I'll press layers, and when I get this button, rec, for record, it'll allow me generate what I want to generate. I'll generate the vein on this direction, more or less, a bit irregular. The veins will always get down up to this portion, and then they start to get divided. The idea of using the layers here is, since if I want to get a more subtle result, I can modify the veins to adjust such thing. I'll show you in a minute how. Let's suppose I've got a result with which I'm satisfied, but I might think I've got them too voluminous. So what I can do from the layer, we could move this slider halfway, it'll delete the veins. If we move it again, close to 100%, 100% would be over here at the end. If I have it around here, I get very subtle veins. And if I take this slider all over the left, we get the opposite result, with kind of a concave surface. So the idea I have in mind is to get them subtle, like so, depending on the food you're making. If you don't like this feature, what happened there is that ZBrush is telling me to turn the layers off. If I got a good result and I like it, what I can do is to collapse these layers and hit this Bake All button. This way, we would be saving the modification of these veins. If I wanted to edit the veins again after applying the bake, it won't let me do it. So, I'd have to leave it at the end. It won't let me save it since record is not enabled. So, press on this little button and then it allows me to start generating changes. If I want to modify something different to the veins, let me show you. For instance, I'll name this layer, I'll name it veins. I'll add a new modification, but I don't want this modification to be saved on the veins layers. So I'll create a new layer, I'll save the data on this new layer. For instance, I'd like to make this portion thinner. I think there are some fingers that are not so thick. So if I like this result, it's been saved on this layer. If I think the veins look alright, like so, what I'll do is to hit Bake All, and it applies the modification. And now, I can keep on sculpting with no problem, and these shapes have been applied to the sculpting. I think this is it about the food tutorial. I hope you have liked it and learned a lot. I'd like to leave a message and a recommendation. It's very likely you don't get the result you expected to get. After you generate this food a couple of times more, you'll notice a great improvement. So don't give up and keep on practicing. Wish you success and see you on a next tutorial. Let's continue with the class. We'll finish with the final details by adding some cuts and creases. It would be as follows. We select DAM standard and we'll start then on this area here. Let's see. Let's leave this on 28. Okay. Basically, it'll be the same process we went through with this area down here. Applying the cuts using DAM standard. And then we add some details using pinch or inflat. Around this portion, the cuts go all around basically with irregular cuts. I'll project it a bit more. Alright, same over here. Let's use DAM standard over here then. Alright, we have to check and be careful they don't get too prominent. I'll decrease it a little, it's too voluminous. We select DAM standard again. We are checking our own hand to make sure we know how this shape should be. Okay, and finally, we could add these details on the little finger, which in my case is a little different, with some kind of interlaced cuts. Like so. Alright, now, on this portion it would be around here. With different cuts all around, with different sizes. And another cut located around here, not necessarily around the border of this volume. It could be around here. The cut is a bit more irregular, as I've sketched it here. And this one crosses all this area, like so. Another one around here. Alright, perhaps if I want to join them a bit more, we can use pinch and apply it on every single cut. I think this crease could be improved. Something like this. I'll select standard and make these creases a bit sharper. We could add another crease around here. And let's improve this crease shape. I'm already on the last subdivision. We can have more control to make sure this area looks better with the creases. I'll decrease a subdivision. This one may be so prominent on this area. Over here on the knuckles, we could add some cuts the same way. In this case, they've got a different pattern, like so. And over here with this pattern. I'll add some bulges on each one of these cuts. We could also use inflat. Obviously, there actually are lots of details all around the hand, and that depends on the hand you'll create. And by then, you already know the techniques and how to add those details. We should maybe pull this portion a bit upwards. Alright, I think this is it about this tutorial. I think we've got a very good result. On the next class, we'll start with the foot tutorial. So, see you on the next block, which is the 6th block. Hello everyone, welcome to this new class. On this class we'll cover the head's muscles. I'll explain the muscles of the face only. On this class I won't cover proportions. We should understand this first. And I'll do it by using a base. In fact, the base we'll use is the same we used for the previous lessons. Double click on this one, which is the tool we've used. Drag it, edit, and hit F in order to bring it to the front. I'll go ahead and select another material. This one should do. It lets me visualize the shadows. I'll increase a couple of subdivisions. I'll remove part of this here since it's got too much volume. So in that way I can shape the muscles more properly. Alright. Now let's select a brush called Weave for tracing the muscles. We'll learn how to do it easily. There are two types of muscles, starting with the orbicularis oculi musculus and the orbicularis oris. The orbicularis oris is shaped like this, like so. Over here on the sides we'll create a subtle volume, so it is more prominent. And we'll finish its shape right below the lower lip. Something like this. This is then the orbicularis oris, and next I'll create the orbicularis oculi. It is shaped something like this. With this shape approximately. Let's continue on this portion here. This is kind of a guide we'll use from this little volume we've generated here. From the orbicularis oris starts a muscle right below it, which gets down straight. Let's add another subdivision. And it gets wider this way and gets attached to the maxilla on this region. This muscle is called depressor anguli oris. Basically, the depressor anguli for both lips, which we use for moving both lips. Like when we make a sad face, for instance. There is another muscle right below here, attached to the maxilla and also to these orbicularis oris. It's known as the depressor labii inferioris. There is another one over here called the mentalis of the chin. That's basically it regarding to what we have to understand about this portion. Let's continue with the muscles of Let's have a look first what respects to the zygomaticus major on the area we know as the cheek. I'll sketch it here, but we better use clay buildup. And some aspects must be kept in mind. Right at this height of the ear, I'll draw this line. This one is called, let me show you with this image I've chosen as reference. This is called the zygomatic process of temporal bone. This is the one I'm drawing. This is called the zygomatic process of frontal and the zygomatic process of maxilla. Let's go back to ZBrush. So let's shape this one here and the one of the maxilla. All of them conform what is known as the zygomatic arc. It's quite important to do this in advance, since to this bone area some muscles get attached. Then, What muscles? There is one. Let's select again Weave from this portion of the orbicularis oris. I'll increase the subdivision since I want this muscle to have more detail. I'll sketch this line, and over the lower part of the zygomatic, this muscle gets attached. We know it is the zygomatic major. Another muscle comes this way. It's called zygomatic minor. And another muscle comes located here, below the zygomaticus minor. We know it as the levator labii superioris. Alright, let's have a look at another muscle, a bit smaller. This muscle is called levator labii superioris, like Nazi. Alright. Let's continue over here to carry on the zygomatic area. In this case, over the inferior portion gets attached another muscle, which is a bit bigger, called masseter, shaped like this, leaving here kind of a triangular gap. It links to the mandible, approximately like this up to this portion here. So it goes and reaches this portion here on the zygomatic. Another little muscle, I'll select again Weave. I'm still missing an important muscle. And a small one which comes from this portion here too. It crosses through the masseter and also gets linked to the mandible. It is called risorius. Let's go to this area where we have a little muscle. It is known as the procerus muscle. Now let's go ahead and draw something with this shape. This muscle is called frontalis muscle. And over here, we'll sketch one called, and this muscle is quite big, with this shape approximately, and comes this way from the zygomatic process of temporal. And in fact, this muscle is called temporal muscle. Alright, without getting into too much detail, well, we are still missing an important muscle located around here, right below. It's quite important since it is relatively large, but it's located right below these two. This muscle is known as bacinator, and basically that would be the last muscle to show you. There are no more important muscles actually for the features we need to create. There are for sure some other internal muscles, but I don't think there is need on getting deep with that since we've got what we need already with these muscles we've shaped so far. Alright, that would be it for this class. On the next class, what I'd like to teach you is to make a head starting from scratch, using a sphere and a couple of cylinders, and from that point on, by applying standards and proportions, we'll generate the head from scratch. So I'll see you on the next class. we are on the third session. Let's continue. Okay, I'll increase the subdivision. We'll finish this portion over here. We at least have this part of the leg done. I'd like to add some more volume to this portion of the gluteus for them to have a better shape. So, what I'll do is to shape it more round. Let's see how this brush works. Over here, I'll show you. In fact, it goes inwards, preserving the round shape of the leg. We could make it up to this portion, more or less. And no, we better select clay tubes. And we'll add in a softer way with clay tubes the material. I've made a stroke too big, so I'll select. Let's leave it on 21. We'll try to add the volume, avoiding this. The idea is that we add volume from the split here for the gluteus. We also try to keep kind of the same direction, something like that approximately. Over here, we'll try to shape it like this, with this shape. I'll select in flat in order to close a bit this space on this area. I'll mark better this shape here, the general shape of the gluteus maximus. Subtle touches to smooth it. That's looking better now. This portion here of the gluteus maximus should be shaped this way. And over here is more prominent. Let's see how this clay buildup works with the alpha. We'll mark a bit more the volume of the fasciolata, tensor fasciolata, that in fact is a bit more voluminous and reaches this portion down here. It surrounds a bit the trochanter. So it is like this, with this volume approximately. Alright. Now we'll go back smoothing some more. Let's leave it like that for the time being. What I'd like to do is to add some more volume here to this portion of the quadriceps. I mean, the portion of the quadriceps that turns out to be the vastus lateralis. So I'll add some more material on this portion. We already know this portion corresponds to the vastus. Alright. The vasa lateralis reaches this portion, continues this way. It reaches this region approximately and gets down this way. It should be a bit wider. So it starts to take the muscular shape we want. But there is something else. Here, it should be thinner. It has got too much volume already. So what we do is to push it inwards a bit using move. From this perspective, the vastus looks something like this approximately. That should be alright now. Well, this gladius probably is a bit too wide here. Let's push it a bit over here. I'll add some material here this way. Alright, we are getting the shape. I'll move a bit this portion here. Let's keep in mind our character is a man, and normally a man has got the hip narrower. So if we generate too much volume on this region, it'll look too feminine. And we don't want that, obviously. For men, the width is more prominent on this portion of the leg in the case of a person who works out. But here for the hips, we better leave it narrower, like this approximately. I'll add some touches here with this brush. I'll smooth here. It is something like that approximately. Alright, let's continue with these inner muscles of the leg, which in this case they are one that is called pectineus, which is little coming from this portion. I'll make it with clay tubes. And the rest, they are like 3 muscles, which are the adductors, the adductor longus, which gets down this way, adductor magnus, which goes up to this region approximately. That helps us to improve this region. Adductor magnus, adductor longus, and the pectineus. And another one, which is fundamental, it is called gracilis. It goes totally straight from the middle of the character. All the way down straight. And joins on this portion to the muscle we already know as sartorius. Makes this twist and also links to this portion over here. This portion here of the tibia. So this shape, coming here inwards, this gracilis gets down this way. Let's make it a bit thicker. So we have the pectineus, the adductor longus, and adductor magnus. This one here, let's smooth them a bit with subtle touches. But in fact, these muscles, well, with skin covering them, they won't look like this. But this is for us to understand their shape and to know where they are located. Let's select this inflat, maybe, because what I want is to pull a bit this group of muscles, this group of adductors. Little touches over here. Let's take a pause on this third session. We'll continue on the fourth session. We'll continue with the second session. Over here on this portion, I'll sketch them using clay tubes, where some of the most important muscles are located. Probably some of the most prominent, I think. They are called the vastus lateralis and vastus medialis. From this portion and goes around up to this region. And the volume goes this way. I'll increase the intensity a little. It could be on 22. Let's leave this portion thinner over here, since it's composed by ligaments and tendons, most of all. And we start creating this shape. We add material with patience. Let's increase the intensity. To 35 should do. Yep, I think that's better. And let's give it little touches. Alright, we leave it there. This muscle comes up to this portion of the patella. In fact, this muscle gets up to this portion here. We smooth. Let's leave it like that for the time being. This muscle gets up to this portion and goes across under the tibialis anterior and stands out a little around here. Then this muscle actually reaches this portion, goes under and continues over here. This iliotibial tract goes right above. Something like this, approximately. We smooth here, giving some touches. We might go ahead and apply some more volume. But I'll do it as follows. I'll show you a brush called clay buildup. We simply change the alpha and we leave it on 35. It generates kind of a round shape on the surface with easier control. Okay, we'll leave it like that for the time being. I'll show you how we'll complement with other muscles, I mean the vastus medialis. I'll select clay tube, and from this portion we've got the other muscle. But this muscle, different to this one, it is more linked here to this portion of the patella. Over here it takes this shape, kind of with a Y shape on this area. I'll add material and I'll show you what we'll do here. Let's leave it there. This muscle is not so long. It basically reaches this portion here. It is a little smaller than the vastus medialis, than this muscle here. And it has got something else for us to take into account. This muscle also is located a bit lower. I'll select clay buildup with this new alpha. And we add some more volume this way. Notice I'm trying to make the ligament which links to the patella get closer to the patella, so the volume is generated closer to the patella. While the vastus lateralis is located a bit higher, since this portion over here of the tendons are a bit longer. Let's see. Let's select this one for instance. They also get linked over here to the patella this way. I'll smooth. Alright. And over here, after drawing this, we have a very important muscle left, called rectus femoris. The one right here on this reference image. It is very important because as we can see on this image, it's got zone with tendon. And the fibers behave like this. So what we'll have to do, we could work with that standard. I'll generate a cut over here. Let's leave just up to this portion. I'll smooth it a bit more to generate that split a bit more marked. Like if they were two muscles, but in fact it's just one. And using clay tubes, we could leave it on 27, it should do. I'll start creating the fibers for this muscle, like so. But when we don't have our muscles that defined, this muscle is not so prominent. Most of all, it becomes prominent for those practicing bodybuilding. I'll increase the subdivision and I'll smooth. We can smooth harder in this case. Let's try to smooth the shape, but avoiding to lose this cut, or the basic shape of the muscles. Let's leave it like that, but we'll select this brush called S-Polish. we'll polish the shape a bit. Alright. At the moment, we have got the front part with respects to the quadriceps. All this portion almost finished, but we could complement it with some things, for instance, this muscle. Let's decrease the subdivisions to 3, and by using the move brush, we'll modify and move the shape. This portion will pull it forward, and this one a bit backwards. Over here on the gluteus, normally its muscular fibers come heading this direction for the gluteus maximus. And likewise for the gluteus medius. So we'll add some more material, being careful with the split here. We'll still need it later on. Let's take a pause and we'll continue on a third session. Alright, let's continue with the hand. On this tutorial, on the palm portion, we'll try to create unity with the fingers. I can notice, well, I'll get this portion downwards, but I notice this finger, the thumb, should be thicker and this crease could be lower. Around there. That should do. Let's take this a bit lower. Now, these volumes here were for suggesting the metatarsus, but I'll remove them now for starting to add the right shape. And for me to be able to explain how this area is, respecting the tendons and the muscles over the hand. Let's also notice this finger should be a little bit thicker, wider around here, and we should pull this portion a bit more. I'd also like to rotate this finger first, and in addition to that, I'll take it upwards a bit more. I think in a relaxed position, this knuckle should be upper. Around here approximately. Therefore, we would be fixing the same problem back here. It is too lower. So let's take it upwards. This way. It could be by smoothing it. Let's leave it there. I'll also clean this area. And I'll explain where the muscles would be. So, from this portion, we can start sketching the muscles. I'll increase the subdivision and I'll refer to some images I've got, especially for this part. It's quite relevant since it suggests an important shape of the hand. We find here then the flexor retinaculum of the hand. It is kind of a knot in the middle of the hand where some muscles get detached. For instance here, the abductor digiti quinti, the flexor digiti quinti brevis, and the opponent's pollicis with the abductor pollicis brevis. So let's go ahead and sketch that volume first. I think I have it sketched already, but I'd like to apply some touches using clay tubes. So here, we've got the flexor retinaculum on this area. Another important area around here is this one called palmar aponeurosis, which is this big space here. It actually is not a muscular part. Reason why is flatter. Here it is. As we can see on this image, this is the palmar aponeurosis. This blue portion here, it's not a muscular area, but it is a flat area right in the middle of the hand palm. So, it would be here. I'll explain another important area around here. Okay, now let's start creating some subdivisions over here, especially those visible areas on a hand with skin. I'm talking about this portion up here. I'll smooth this a bit. Over here we can separate it as follows. Let's see. We could say right in front of the fingers we find. I'll do it this way, since with skin covering them, normally this area is flatter. Let me show you the visual reference. This is the area of the palm from a bottom perspective. This is from a top perspective. Here we can see these muscles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those muscles are called lumbricals muscles, but the portion I'm making is this one here. They get up here and get attached to the flexor digitorum superficialis. So I'll show you how all this group of muscles would be for us. The flexors actually won't be visible, neither the muscles on this area, but I'll just show you their location. The muscles are located pretty much on the side, as we can notice here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So, depending on the person, these muscles will be more visible. They are not right in the middle, but on the side of the finger, something like so. Similar to this. And for the tendons area, they actually are quite imperceptible. So we would get more like a flat area around here. I'll smooth this a bit. And down here we find a muscle on this portion. But actually, on this part, we get a crease. I'll prepare the area to sketch the muscle. This muscle is called abductor pollicis, and it might be visible down here. And also up here. We describe a little volume like so. For the time being, let's leave it like that. So let's continue on this upper portion. So over here, the heads of the metacarpals are a little exposed on this portion of the knuckles. So I'll sketch them this way. As we already know, the metacarpals reach this portion up here. But these metacarpals are surrounded by a series of muscles. The muscles go around here, like so. They are called dorsal interosi of the hand, and they are shaped like this approximately. They cover this area of the metacarpals. Let's smooth them a bit. But they are visible. Let me show you here on the image. This area of the metacarpals is exposed and visible. Another muscle, the opponent's pollicis, it crosses around this portion. Although it's not visible, this abductor pollicis is a bit voluminous, visible around this area. Alright, I think we've understood the most relevant shapes regarding the hand. What is left are the tendons down here, which are the flexors, which are the ones that are controlled by the muscle called flexor digitorum superficialis. Different up here, the ones that are controlled by the extensor digitorum muscle. So we'll continue with this portion on the next video. See you in the next class. We continue with this fifth session. So we left off over here to start the portion of the calf. What I'll do is to continue with the guides. First, what we'll do here is the following, in order to continue with the portion below the calf, is to mark this shape of the tibia, which is very important. The tibia somehow is exposed on this zone. it hasn't got any muscle to hide it on this flat area. So yeah, it's quite exposed. So we could make it get down this way, and it would reach this. Let's create the guide over here. That portion is simply what we know as the ankle. This one here turns out to be the medial malleolus. And this one turns out to be the lateral malleolus. We've got it then already as a guide. So I'll keep on making this guide downwards up to this portion. I'll decrease some subdivisions in order to smooth this portion here. Let's leave the subdivisions on 4 then, and we'll take up to this portion. This is the tibia. This portion here of the tibia, which goes all the way down up to the medial malleolus, and this lets us mark some other muscles. Probably the easiest way to understand the muscles that the leg has got. On the lower part, here by the calf, we could do it as follows. It is divided by 4 muscles starting from the middle here, on this division where the tibia is. One of those muscles is this one. We have got another muscle here, and another one over here. I'll make first, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are 4 muscles. I'll show you where those muscles are. One could be this one. We'll leave a little space over here. We will, excuse me. Well, we'll make it with dam standard. We'll go all the way down in an almost straight way. I'll make a muscle a bit thin. This muscle here is not so wide as this muscle here, for instance, and it has got some ligament turning around the lateral malleolus. Like this then, more or less. It describes a curve here and continues heading towards the toes. So this muscle is shaped something like this. Over this portion, it becomes quite thin. Let's just fix its shape with this brush. Using clay tubes. I'll show you how it makes the twist. Alright, we've already got the basic shape of how this muscle should be. This muscle is known as the peroneus longus. We know already that in order to generate it, it is linked to the biceps femoris. Gets down, gets linked to the head of the fibula, gets down straight and turns around the ankle. So what we've got there, we've already marked this muscle, this one. We still have left to make on this portion of the leg. So that way, we'll be able to understand they are 4 muscles. We'll place here another muscle, which will reach the middle portion of the middle of the foot. And this muscle is called extensor digitorum longus. Let's start adding some volume in order to differentiate them, using clay buildup and this alpha 35. Alright. In order to make the next muscle, we'll do it as follows. It is a large muscle which crosses right under the gastrocnemius. So we'll go ahead and make the gastrocnemius first. The inner gastrocnemius and the outer gastrocnemius. We place them more or less starting from here up to this portion here. Could be on the middle of the leg. And they've got a shape similar to this one. This one over here, this gastrocnemius usually reaches this portion. The angle for this one is more like this. We could make them like this approximately. And in this case, let me show you in a reference image how that portion is. Alright, over here we can see what I told you about the tibia. That it is totally exposed. And we'll make this part of the gastrocnemius. This portion is the inner part of this leg. We notice we've got one muscle here and another muscle here, the soleus. But the soleus, in fact, is a muscle which crosses under the gastrocnemius. Let's see over here so we can understand that better. With this visual reference, these are the soleus. The outer soleus and the inner soleus. But if we hide this, we'll notice it's one single muscle. In addition to that, we notice, well, over here we can see what I was talking about. Here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 muscles. The soleus has got this shape reaching this portion here, next to the peroneus. So we'll draw this soleus as follows. Let's select clay buildup. So this makes us add some volume on what corresponds to the gastrocnemius. This gastrocnemius has got a wider section in the middle. So I'll make the stroke over here. Right here the soleus takes place then. As it looks over here. Well, in fact, it's not so high. My bad. But what happens is that this tibia is a bit wider over here. This stroke should be around here. We fix this area a little. We smooth it. I'll flatten it by using a polish. Alright, so now we can make the soleus reach this portion here. And also we can define this soleus with this angle. And at the same time the division with the inner gastrocnemius. Let's add some volume a bit. We'll add some more volume to this muscle here. On this portion here, we'll do the following. We'll add some material on this edge, this way. And over here, I'll remove some material. I'll smooth, so we generate this undesired shape, but we'll fix it. But it is looking approximately as I want the gastrocnemius to look. Let's take a pause and we'll continue on the next session. Hello everyone, welcome to this new course. In this course, we'll learn how to do the head. All the details needed to sculpt a head properly. We are not covering all the muscles we actually have. There is no need for that. It's more important to understand part of the osseous system, the bones of the head, and some of the most important muscles for the face movements. So this time, let's start with the ear. Let's select a sphere, drag, and we'll edit. What I'll do with this sphere, click on Make Polymesh 3D, and on a side, hit Shift F so we can see the mesh. Shift F on this side, I'll draw an ear. How am I doing it? We'll focus first of all on the outside of the ear, represented with this curve. And we start sketching it this way. Let's say that by using this technique, it's the easiest way to understand its shape. Without complicating ourselves, despite the ear seems to be quite difficult, in fact, it isn't that much. There is no big deal with the ear. I'm gonna show you a really easy way to get the ear well sculpted. I'll add a subdivision. Using DAM standard over here, I'll create a stroke with a subtle angle, with a little bit of slope. Something like 10 degrees, perhaps. 10 to 15 for the most. Okay, so we know we should get a curve up here. Get in, Ctrl Z. I'll tell you the names of the parts we'll sculpt in a moment. For the time being, I'll just want you to understand how we can make this part. So what we have to do is to make this curve, starting from inside, and describes this shape, finishing around this area. And using the same DAM standard, we'll work on this portion, trying to get a concave shape. And we start smoothing. Almost all this shape gets narrower on this portion here. I'll add a subdivision for us to understand better the shape you're making. Over here on this edge, it comes kind of sharper. Over here on this portion, it definitely is wider and thicker. We could say this portion over here is still too wide, so we'll push it out this way, generating this little edge. Let's notice it's kind of sharp here. Like that should do. What we'll do next is to grab it from the front. I'll flatten this a bit here. We have to look at it from the front, behind, and from whatever it takes for us to understand the shape properly. From this perspective, I can notice we should lift this a bit. Let's get this portion a bit lower, and I'll do it by using DAM standard. we smooth it. Over here, I'll create a gap on this portion. I'll decrease the subdivision and I'll start smoothing these deformations you can see around this area. We'll carry on working as we go. We will apply a Dynamesh for us to correct the topology. But for the time being, we'll keep on working like this. So far, I think it's been quite easy to create this part of the ear. After creating this portion, we can understand the basic shape. And well, I'll be telling you the names so our work becomes easier actually. All this portion here is called helix, all this curved portion. This lower part is called earlobe, and this inner part, on this concave space, it's called conch. Alright, now I'll make another little part here, which has around this shape. No, I made too much on the outside. This little portion is called tragus. It's got a little curve. And here, over this portion, antitragus. And this little space here is called intertragic notch. I'll select dam standard once again for polishing the edges a bit. Alright, well, intertragic notch, tragus, and antitragus. So far, we start to get the idea of the general shape of the ear. It hasn't taken us too long, and I think it's been easy to understand this ear shape with this method. I'll generate some more inner space around here. We could leave it like this, perhaps. Alright, I think we should pull out the tragus a bit. Let's see it from the front. We have to pull it out, since we should be able to see it from the front. Over there should do. Okay, let's leave it like that for the time being. Let's select dam standard. And let's create a little gap. I think I better make it using standard. This hole is called external auditory meatus. We leave it just like that. Now let's take a pause here and we'll continue on a second session.